Can I first of all welcome you to this event this evening, this conference centre this morning. This conference centre has been the scene of many momentous events, and I hope we will look back on this morning as a turning point for the discussion of what we can do to make the Scottish economy stronger, to create more jobs and to relieve poverty in the years ahead. And my first obligation is a vote of thanks to Liz and the Edinburgh Chamber of Commerce for organising this event. A welcome. Indeed, I'm the warm-up speaker for 20 panellists who will join you this morning, led by Heather McGregor in a few minutes, and before that by Lord Sainsbury. And it's his emphasis on Scotland as an innovation nation, what we were in the past, what we can be in the future, that is the key, we think, to employment creation and to poverty elimination in the future. And that's what I want to talk about this morning, because I do believe that what we're suggesting as an economic and social plan for the future of Scotland is the key to uniting our country around shared objectives that we pursue with mutual respect. So I come here not as a partisan politician. In fact, I'm a lapsed politician. You might say I'm a recovering politician. I'm too old to be a British politician. I mean, I've had 5 successors as Prime Minister since I left office, and of course, I'm too young to be an American politician, as you can obviously see. But the first set of facts I want to give you are shocking. America has grown at twice the rate of Europe in the last few years, since 2019 and the start of the pandemic. Europe has grown at twice the rate of the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom has grown at twice the rate of Scotland. So we have been growing at 1/8 of the rate of the American economy. And you can see that this is not just a short-term trend, it's a longer-term trend. Since 2015, Scotland has grown at half the rate of Britain, which has also grown at nearly half the rate of some of the more advanced economies. Now, Lord Sainsbury is going to talk about our rate of innovation and what's happened to productivity and gross value added per head, and it presents a challenging story. But one figure stood out in the work that I saw. If we had the same rate of business creation and business retention as England, then we would have 60,000 more businesses in Scotland today. But then look at the great assets that we have, not just mineral assets. Of course, North Sea oil and gas has been a huge asset, but we've got wind and wave power, we've got hydrogen, we've got hydroelectricity. All these are in the offing. But also think of the human resources. We are actually top of the league for top universities per capita, per head of population in the world. And for example, we've got the same number of top universities in the top 100 as Canada, but we're only a 7th of the population of Canada, half the population of Switzerland, that's also got 3 universities. And when you actually look at the figures right across Europe, we are the first country in Europe that's got a majority of the 16 to 60 age group who've got post-school qualifications. England's about 45%, we're 50.5%, and we're the first in Europe. So we have a very highly skilled population, perhaps not in the right skills, as we'll discuss. And one of the failures is in non-university education, which I will talk about in a minute. But Scotland has these advantages. Half, however, of the graduates in Scotland, recent graduates, are working in non-graduate jobs, jobs that don't require graduate qualifications. And that's a sign of the shortage of good jobs in the Scottish economy, which reflects what I really want to emphasise, the need for us to support innovation and to create the competitive, internationally competitive services and products that would make Scotland a world leader as it has been in the past. Now, the Centre for the Cities identified 7 clusters in Scotland that had the huge potential to expand into creating not just high levels of employment and high levels of well-paid employment, but also to create indirectly large numbers of jobs around them. And if I divide these into 3 sectors, and David will talk in a minute about industry sector strategies, which seems to me to be the key to the future of how we organise economic policy for the future. The first is obviously in the area of medicine and health and life sciences. And I'll just give you one example. We've done a paper as Our Scottish Future on precision medicine, which of course is tailoring medicine to the needs of individual patients and the help that they will get using DNA and all sorts of other genetic and other information. We have got a lead in this because of the mixture of clinical research and entrepreneurial skills, particularly in Glasgow and Edinburgh, and that is a huge potential to be a world leader in what will become a multi-billion industry in the years to come. And of course that spreads over to what you're going to hear about this morning from Professor Best and others. Life sciences in Scotland, we have over 200 companies that are capable of doing very well. And between them, we believe in the work that we've done, that 40,000 new jobs could come over the next 10 years, and another 60,000 jobs would be related to supplying these industries and the spin-off in retail and everything else from that. The second sector, and Chris van der Kuyl is going to talk about this morning, is IT and the digital transformation. And of course, Dundee is leading the world in the video games industry. Abertay University, a world centre of excellence in this area. And right across the IT sector, there is huge potential in Scotland, whether it's from coding or from other industries like fintech, developing out of AI and technology. And again, we believe that if you take these sectors and you take the financial services expansion, but you also take another sector, food and drink, where new technology is obviously making us most potentially successful in the future. And of course, we already have whiskey, salmon, and everything else. Then another 40,000 jobs can be developed in the next 10 years in that series of sectors as well. And then thirdly, energy, because although the North Sea is presented as a story of decline and of decommissioning, we believe that there is a North Sea 2.0 to complement a North Sea 1.0. And we're really thinking of a new North Sea grid. And it would have three elements, because it would be a network bringing together a number of energy sources where not just through interconnectors, but through relationships with other countries and building a network, we could actually create thousands of jobs. The first in the area of wind, where floating wind is now a huge opportunity, and the North Sea would be the centre for that, given the level of wind and the intermittency is actually being dealt with by the floating wind idea. And then in the area of hydrogen, where of course green and blue hydrogen have huge opportunities, partly as a result of gas and wind, and electrolysis, where Aberdeen is doing well with its hydrogen centre, and at the same time, of course, carbon capture and storage, which has been a false start in Longannet and Peterhead, but now has the potential, in my view, to develop not just on land, but of course in the North Sea itself, using some of the wells that are now being made redundant. And so we think about 40,000 more jobs can come, and that's in Fife, but it's also in the northeast of England, and of course in the Aberdeen area. So think of it this way: Glasgow used to be the centre for shipbuilding, now the centre for the most modern precision medicine. Aberdeen once the centre for North Sea oil, now the centre for renewables. Dundee once the centre for German journalism, now going to be the centre for obviously IT, and one of the big developments that Chris van der Kuyl will talk about is in not just video games, but the use of video games technology in a whole range of other sectors for the future. And of course, Edinburgh is still a major centre for the financial services. And what's preventing this happening? Well, we need a proper industry policy, what is, I call, an industry sector strategy. Each sector needs the benefit of four things. One is investment itself, and of course Liz has just talked about what you might call the scale-up companies that need new investment, and often that is not available in Scotland because it's available more in the Golden Triangle of the southeast. Investment, obviously, in infrastructure. Anybody who's trying to get here this morning knows that we need to do better. I remember President Mitterrand saying that the Channel Tunnel opened up two worlds of travel: high-speed travel to Calais, cross the Channel, and then a chance to have a leisurely look at the British countryside. And you might think of that when you see the problems of travel to work areas that are not big enough because the transport connections are not good enough. Thirdly, investment, of course, in R&D, the Strengthened Places Fund, which should be expanded to allow R&D projects to get funding from UKRI. Catapult centres, we've got some in Scotland, but we need to expand them for those areas we've just been talking about this morning. And then investment in skills, which of course is incredibly important. And T-levels are being developed in England, thanks to some great work that is being done. But we've lost 130,000 college places in Scotland in the non-university educational side over the last 15 years. And of course, the courses that we're doing may be good for the number of hairdressers that are being produced, but to be honest, we are not producing the coding and other IT skills, the skills for the renewables industry that are absolutely necessary. And despite the fact that we've got huge opportunities here, we have massive skill shortages in some of the key areas. And we think a new Scottish national level, employer-led, government-supported S-level qualification is really what we need to deal with the non-university sector and to increase the skills of people in this country. And what do you think is the missing link? And it really is interesting. Sometimes there are blind spots. I've just been in America, and I was talking about the great American entrepreneurs and the blind spots they had. JP Morgan was the most famous banker in the world, but he was going to employ Thomas Edison, but told him he would only employ him if he dropped this terrible idea of electricity. And so Thomas Edison went elsewhere. Thomas Edison then became incredibly successful, was about to employ Henry Ford, and he told him he would only employ him if he dropped this terrible idea of the motor car and the internal combustion engine. And then Henry Ford became so successful as a manufacturer, and he wanted to go into politics, but he made every mistake in the world, including changing party in midstream, refusing to canvass, refusing to give public speeches, and of course he had a blind spot about his ability to be a successful politician. And what is our blind spot in Scotland? Yeah, there is a lack of skills in key areas. There is a lack of finance in key areas. But you know, I think what's happened over the last 10 and 15 years is a lack of cooperation. And I just want to show you on the screen here what is happening. Look at all the different bodies multiplying themselves to deal with a whole series of economic issues. But particularly look at this last paragraph, where basically the UK and Scotland are replicating virtually the same organisations and doing them differently and without cooperation. So you've got the UK government got levelling up funds, shared prosperity funds, community funds operating in Scotland. You've got the Scottish National Investment Bank, you've got the British Business Bank, you've got the Infrastructure Bank. It's no wonder that businesses are confused. If you look at what needs to be done, we need coordination and cooperation. We need it at the regional as well as the national level. We need, and I thank Jim Gallagher for this slide, we need a number of other things to happen if you look at the next page, because there's about 4 billion of money that could be far better spent if we had both Scottish and UK governments working together to look at what is absolutely necessary for the future. And it's this idea that everybody's got to do everything separately and on their own without cooperation that is holding back the Scottish economy, because we don't have people sitting around the same table looking at the same issues in a way that uses funds to best effect. But then think of the prize if we did things differently. We think that we could create 300,000 new jobs, 120,000 in these sectors, 180,000 as the spin-offs from these sectors. But we also think something is a huge prize for us. There are 100,000 people who are in low-paid jobs, who could be trained to do higher-skilled jobs, where the skills are in short supply. They could be taken off universal credit. They are the people who are in poverty because of low pay, and we could actually give them the chance of a better life if we could organise things better. And then think of 150,000 people, because Scotland has the highest proportion compared with England of people who are economically inactive, higher proportion of people who are long-term unemployed, higher proportion of people who are in sickness, higher proportion of people who are suffering from mental illness and unable to work. And we ought to be able to, one, reform the job centre network so we can help people get back to work. And it should be a careers centre as well, helping people get careers and not just jobs. Bring together medical advice as well as employment advice so that we can get jobs better suited to people who are partly incapacitated or people who have got mental and other illness problems who could do some work and need to be helped to get back to work. But this is the huge prize, that if we can have an innovation nation, we can have job creation and we could have poverty eradication. Liz kindly mentioned the project that I'm involved in, of which there's a newspaper circulating this morning, which is the multi-bank, which is food bank, clothing bank, bedding bank, toiletries bank, baby bank, all rolled into one. And starting in Fife, it's now in Edinburgh, Dundee, Perthshire, and we're wanting to expand it. Philip Lockwood Holmes, who's organising, is here this morning and has put his business card round if you would like to be able to talk to him about what your company could do. We're basically looking for companies who can offer supplies that are unused or surplus that can help us get to families. Instead of them being wasted, destroyed, and causing pollution, this could be an anti-pollution solution as well as an anti-poverty solution. Remember that 77% of families with 4 children are in poverty. 55% of families with 3 children are in poverty. There's 100,000 Scots children sleeping tonight with no bed, and therefore probably not sleeping at all. And there's 200,000 Scots children living in households that don't have a fridge and don't have a cooker. And that's the scale of poverty we're seeing, which is now becoming a public hygiene problem as well as a public health problem. So the prize for us is an innovation nation with job creation and poverty eradication. And let me just say something in conclusion. For the last 10 years, the debate in Scotland about the future has divided the country. One side wanting to talk about independence, another side wanting to talk about the union. It has deprived us of the chance to do what's really needing to be done, and that is to talk about the future, job and social prospects and opportunities for mobility in our country. It's time to recognise that we should all come together. Keep your views on independence, keep your views on the union, but let's spend the next decade as a decade of delivery, a decade in which we try to sort out the fundamental economic and social problems that affect the nation, and there is a plan, a way to do that. And that requires us to sell Scotland better to the world, not as a divided nation, and not as a nation sort of convulsed by constitutional debates, but as a nation that is determined to actually make its economy do better and to improve the prospects of the people. Give people what I think is what is the missing ingredient at the moment in everything that is happening, and that is give people hope. Give people hope that we have a plan that can create not just economic success, but build a stronger economy that can deliver social fairness and also help relieve the terrible poverty that is in our midst. And I believe that is a laudable objective that we're trying to pursue with this debate today.